I've got conventions to go to, and this guy reaches out to me randomly 1:12 a.m. in the middle of the fucking night. Was watching your video on fascism and I had some questions. Let me know if you want to talk about it on stream. And then I replied to him, I stream Monday through Thursday, 1 through 5 if you want to call in. And then he responds to me, never off schedule, PST, EST. And like, no, motherfucker. First off, like, KidNotKin, he's microscopic, okay? And he's been around for way longer than me and never grown, okay? There's a number of things that are going on here that made me suspicious as fuck. Like, I wouldn't naturally just be aggro. First off, he's a fucking Sunday orbiter, and Sunday's a weird freak. When I was still talking to Sunday, he wanted me to set up Xander Hall in this like a gotcha interview. Like, literally, he said, "Why don't you lure him in and be very nice to him, and then you can like just obliterate him once you start talking to him." And I was like, I would never do that to somebody. But I have now maintained anybody that's like friendly with Sunday. I just assume that, especially after the falling out I had, I was like, oh, okay, I can kind of see what kind of community you build up. I assume that any Sunday orbiter will do something like try to do a little gotcha setup thing, and I really wouldn't be surprised. Also, if you ask somebody else to show up on your show, you have to be accommodating to their time. You know what I mean? Like, or at least kind of fucking polite about it. This guy started being like weirdly fucking pushy. And I'm like, are you trying to set up an ambush or something? I don't know. But either way, I literally didn't have fucking time. I would have talked to him. I just literally would have talked to him if he could have shown up when I had my show on. But like, I'm not going to make time for somebody that has like 1.2K subs who I don't know. I've never fucking like talked to. This is the first conversation I've ever had with a guy. And I don't like your content. So like, there's like no reason. You got to fuck incentivize me to want to talk to you. And I was just like, fuck this, whatever. He's being weird and overly pushy. So I responded, rarely that I stream off schedule. Thus the schedule, EST. Last guy I scheduled with was like a month in advance, and October is super busy. Hey, though, you talk to President Sunday here and there, right? Could you send him this? And I sent him the Westside, the Westside unban appeals form. And then he never responded to me. So I can only assume that it was like a big fucking, it was probably a whole fucking thing. Eventually, though, apparently he released a video on me. He covered it. I think it's fucking funny. I really don't give a shit. But we can get into this. Who's the Sunday orbiter? This guy KidNotKin. You've never heard of him. Dude, trying to search my name with his name just brings up my videos because YouTube doesn't give a fuck about this guy. He's like ruined his reputation with the algorithm. The video he made on me has got like 2.2K views. And it's like his second biggest video for the last several weeks. Like, I literally couldn't look up my name with his name because it just brought up my videos and just ignored him. I was like, what in the fuck? What in the fuck, YouTube? You're fucking this guy up. You've always said the creator DMs aren't private anyway. Like, I won't ever share somebody's like specific shit. Like, if you talk to me and you're like, oh yeah, my fucking like grandpa has cancer or like something like that, that's not necessary. But yeah, don't communications between like people, like if it's, I'm just gonna say what happened, you know what I mean? I think it's okay. Now there's a difference between like keeping it here. If we had another conversation, I wouldn't roll through the entire thing on stream. I know that there's somebody watching right now that would. I also don't secretly record anybody. Hi, Sunday. Sip, 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 sip. Ah, you didn't realize I know that you're watching. Sip, sip, drink up. But either way, I'm gonna hit play on this, see what he has to say. Mostly, I wanted to respond to this just because I haven't watched it, but I read through the comments, and I was just like laughing, just fucking brain dead all the way down.
All right, something a little bit more contentious. I want to know what happens. Leftists are not immune to fascism. Sorry, LMAO. Uh-oh.
God, dude, I don't watch my videos. I just upload them. My fucking editors do. I make this stuff. I tell them not to add anything. Hopefully they don't and pretty much put the shit straight out. But that fucking intro goes so hard. God, it sounds good. Fucking intimidating ass video to turn on.
With an intro like this, you better have like this kind of lighting. You better have like this kind of lighting, and you better be a huge piece of shit. No smiling ever about anything. His branding is kind of like all over the place. He's got like this kind of an intro. He has like this like alien.
Don't talk about you fucking nobody. Shut the fuck up, KidNotKin. What the fuck? Nobody watches your channel. What the fuck do you know? What the fuck? Shut the fuck up.
What is it called? Glooby or something? The alien?
The thing about Hitler...
Glorpo. Oh, what?
The thing about Hitler is, aside from the shit he's most known for, usually does a lot of the heavy lifting to making the things that they sound crazy. That's why there's a recurring trope that you've probably seen in your life where somebody will go just like,
skipping
through
the
entire thing? This is this thing, and they read it out, and they're like, do you think that Donald Trump said this, or do you think Adolf Hitler said it? And it's because, obviously, like, Donald Trump's a bad guy, but the thing is a lot of the things that they say are pretty reasonable sounding.
So let me get this out of the way really quick. I'm not sure if he's going to be defining fascism or if he'll do it correctly. Most people don't. It's not entirely their fault. It's kind of confusing. Fascist ideologies are like seemingly like intentionally a mindfuck. The thing is, fascism has to do with this ideation of the state as a vehicle for society, and the state as such, with not just like the state as in like the military or whatever, but the state as its own like metaphysical force. In a sense, like there's this mythical relationship between the people and the state. It's not like a mechanical relationship. It's not just a political relationship. It's an intrinsic relationship between the people and the state, and that's that gets to the heart of what the fascist ideology is about. Fascism is something that was developed as a response to the mobilizing force of Marxism, and very much opposed to it in a very particular way. Fascists saw that you can mobilize a lot of people.
Bro, why do you have so many fucking cuts in here? God damn.
Workers, you could have a lot of political influence that way, but the criticism that the fascists had is that the problem with Marxism in terms of how it mobilizes people and its efficiency to mobilize people, again, not for the end goal. Fascists don't have an end goal. Communists have an end goal of communism. That's why they call themselves communists. Fascism does not have an end goal of this utopia. They don't have that.
That's wrong. That's literally wrong. What is he fucking talking about? First off, if you just go to Nazis, it's literally just Hyperborea. It's just literally called Hyperborea. You know what I mean? There is a fascist end state. It's just literally accomplishing purity of society. I have my whole I wrote up a whole working definition of fascism. I'll get to it here in a second.
Fascism is not about the structure of the state as such. It's not about the structure of the economy as such. It's about the mobilizing force. How are you mobilizing the citizenry, the corporations, the economy? How are you mobilizing everything to work in tandem with each other in the most efficient way possible? The criticism of Marxism is it was too divisive. You have the workers on the one hand, you have the capitalists on the other hand. You need to have something that has what's called this class collaborationism. They need to be part of the same unifying project. That unifying project is going to be under the purview of the state. And so then you need this guiding mythos of the state. What does it mean? Where is it going? What is that mythos of the state?
Dude, this is yappery. This is high level fucking yappery. Okay, I'm just going to cut off here. I'm going to let him yap again in a second because this is just gibberish. I don't know. Did you get this from Giovanni Gentile? I'm going to tell you real quick. I'll go over it for the 5 millionth fucking time. I think I go over it in this video too. He probably just doesn't cover it. There's a lot of skips. If you see me getting cuts, it's probably plenty of goddamn time. I developed my working definition of fascism by basically looking at fascist countries and then also just reading the fucking fascist manifesto. Like I just read the fascist manifesto. They just have a thing where they're like, yeah, this is what we want. And seeing the sort of like constructive documents that went into it. It was all before I started streaming, so I didn't write down all of my fucking sources so that I could present you with an entire fucking book report. But I found that as I've put my definition together, it's very predictive, and it almost always, as far as I know, because I can't look into every fascist country or project or individual, it pretty much predicts behavior and it predicts desire. So I'm just going to go ahead and read mine. I wrote it down before stream, and I'll post it. I guess I'll just go ahead and drop it actually. This isn't perfect and final. I want to make a whole thing. I've got to make a whole fucking video essay on redefining fascism for the modern era, basically, to get everybody caught up. But yeah, I read that. Obviously, Umberto Eco, Fascism. I read that. It's like fucking 5-6 pages long. Go read it yourself. It's pretty fucking short. It's pretty digestible. That's just flawed. Umberto Eco's, just kind of give the background here. Umberto Eco's definition as it stands isn't particularly great. Wow, god damn it. Is that you just made me download that as a .text file? Okay, you guys are fucked. It put it in as a completely unformatted text file, but if you want to just copy paste that somewhere else, go for it. It's on the in the stream chat. But basically, god damn it, what the fuck was I talking about? Umberto Eco. Umberto Eco's work is pretty solid in basically explaining what fascists are going to be doing once their social movement kind of gains ground in an area, but it's also colored by the fact that obviously he has a negative reaction to fascists existing in and around him. And so he blames things that are just natural negative elements of statecraft and of managing populations in a post-revolutionary environment or a post-reconstructionist environment that I don't think are particularly they aren't particularly predictive for behavior. Also, some of the things are things that people just simply don't do. Some of them are things that are just inherent to human nature. Some of the things are very accurate but just need a little bit of touch up, and some of the things are true but also aren't they just really just aren't articulated in a way that's interpretable. I don't know how to say that in a nicer way. They're just hard to like interpret out if you don't know specifically what he was trying to articulate, because also he's not, an English speaker natively. He's from Italy. So I read Umberto Eco's stuff. I read the Fascist Manifesto. I read the fascist, whatever the fuck it is. I can't remember exactly. Mussolini's long ass fucking paper. And then I got into Gabino, who's the person that invented fucking racism. Basically, he invented the modern version of racism that we have. His work inspired some other dickhead who was basically like the partial architect of the final solution, if not the Holocaust. It's just like Hitler's guy that was like, hey, have you basically like a college campus, like, hey, I know that you fucking hate people. Have you tried hating people like with this involved? And so like you get into Nazism and stuff. The biggest issue that a lot of people have, particularly fucking internet suits and leftists, is this idea that fascism is completely separable from socialism and communism, and that somehow communism is actually like an antithetical force to fascism, and it's not even remotely. Not only is it not an antithetical force, it's a contributing force at times. And that's just the fucking case. People get butthurt at me, but it doesn't stem from any logic or any fucking actual reading of all of this material. It stems from lefties just wanting to believe that they're morally superior to other people, and that their existence is proof of the non-existence of fascism in an area, and that their policy prescriptions and their ideas of how the world would run are necessary to counteract fascism. It's just not the fucking case. I'm going to read my definition. It's kind of long. But here you go. The short definition is, what is fascism? A populist social movement that seeks to create a homogenized state through the exaltation and enshrinement of certain novel personal characteristics and the diminishment and annihilation of other undesirable personal characteristics. Fascism is not a state apparatus itself, nor a method of statecraft, but rather a definitive social-moral conditioning of the populace through which a perfected state might be achieved, okay? It's sort of just like liberalism, you know what I mean? Or something like that, or socialism. Fascism is ultimately a social program. It is a way to achieve desired results in society, is really what it is. A fascist state is kind of like saying a Christian state, right? It doesn't actually say how the state is run. aside from just how the populace is conditioned and what the populace will want from as the results of statecraft. The state could be crafted in a number of different ways. It could be reasonably a democracy. It just could. You would call it that, and it might not actually look like a democracy because of how people are going to act when they interact with the democratic functionaries at the lowest level. But you could say it's a democracy, which we have. We have fascist democracies out there. They're not liberal democracies, they're fascist democracies. So when you win by 99-1 instead of considerably different margins. You know what I mean? And that's one of the most important things to understand. I think this is where he's getting tripped up because he doesn't seem to have a very good understanding of it at all. I think, a couple seconds into him just yapping and yammering about this, my belief is more than likely he's starting from fascism bad, and then he's going to do what a lot of lefties do, which is describe Hitler, describe what Hitler did, and then say communists never do this, or socialists or whatever variant of leftism he does, and leftists think that those things are bad, and therefore these are two different systems that could never co-achieve the same thing, and just specifically those things are bad. This is the, as I was saying before, the issue with Umberto Eco's sort of sloppy additional definitions that come out where he's kind of blaming the negative aspects of the specificities on the ground at the moment, as opposed to trying to articulate why those things are happening. And I don't really blame him. His work is what I'm basing my work off of. It creates this situation that I've seen rise up on with lefties again and again and again. I don't care if the righties do it. They do what they do. Where instead of trying to articulate fascism from the standpoint of what a fascist is actually trying to achieve, they articulate fascism from a standpoint of what they are trying to prevent and what they don't desire, and they start attributing additional traits to fascism that fascism doesn't inherently have as a characteristic by necessity. You start seeing like fascism must be racist. Fascism must include like privatization of property. Fascism must do like a series of these things that are not actually highly specific to an social movement, but rather to the on-the-ground realities of one specific fascist experiment in one specific geographic or state-locked region. And that's one of the major issues. So I'm going to get into a little bit more of those things. Certain necessary characteristics separate fascism from other authoritarian constructions. So fascism also is not monarchism. It isn't. Fascism is different. Okay? Fascism is a specific fucking thing. First, rule 1, and these are mine. These are up for interpretation, but also this isn't completely finished. There's some stuff I want to tweak, but this is off my head. I wanted to get all of these out, and so I finally just sat down and completely wrote it out. 1, fascism requires a populist social movement. That is, it must be constructed for the benefit and exaltation of a specified people or folk with a shared heritage. This shared heritage does not need to be, but can be, racial in nature. So you can have an American fascism that is not a white supremacist fascism. That's a risk, right? We're afraid of American fascism, but you're like, why are black people invited? You can have multiple races represented because fascism does not require the exaltation of race. It requires the exaltation of a specific folk, idealized through different types of herbs. I'll get into this. And if race isn't specified, then it isn't necessary. So you can have fascism, and you can have all the negative eventualities of fascism without having the race element. So just keep it in mind that just because somebody's not fucking racist, they can still be fascist as fuck. You know what I mean? That you can still have that. The bad thing can exist without the other bad thing being appended to it. 2, fascism requires all state and economic power to be transferred by whatever novel means to that predefined group, the folk articulated above, whether by mass redistribution at the personal level or through seizure by violent or nonviolent means. So anything from, hey, we're going to start passing laws that only certain types of people can own certain types of property, only certain types of people can run for certain types of office, to just outright, ghettoizing and mass slaughtering the non-people of the society, whoever's not represented by the folk, which we'll get into additionally as well. It doesn't have to all necessarily be Kristallnacht and stealing Jewish businesses. It could be something like redlining, okay, where you just articulate that people can't own businesses in an area, people can't buy houses in a certain area. That's also a certain type of fascism. Fascism requires idealization of specimens. This is the best way I could think of to articulate this. This is one of the ones I might clean up later. That is idealized versions of any specific type of person which would exist in the final utopic vision of the fascist society. Men, women, children, leaders, soldiers, etc., and thus ceaseless mass education and examination of the populace must continue forever in order to achieve the ideal homogeneity of the desired social traits. So basically, mass education or re-education of a populace in order to get them to all ascribe to a certain type of ideal existence, whatever that might be, according to the fascists at hand. So you're going to see like an ideal man. In Nazi Germany is the easiest example of this. Obviously, you have the Übermensch versus the Untermensch, right? You have the German ideal versus the German non-ideal. Ooh, gross. Very good. But you also see this in communist states with communist propaganda. You know what I mean? Like this is what a worker is. And you see that in communist cross propaganda between two very fascist entities like fucking Maoist China and fucking Russian oligarchical post-communist Russia, or whatever the fuck you want to call it, communist Russia, where you see, transracial cooperation between Chinese and Russian individuals. But they're still articulated through that communist ideal. But it's still extraordinarily authoritarian and it ascribes to all these other things. You see it as well in America with idealized version of Americans, particularly in and around World War II. Fascism tends to find a pretty strong foothold, or at least an approach foothold during times of conflict, times of strife, times of war. And you start seeing our boys our boys are out there on the front line. What do our boys look like in World War II? A lot of fucking good, strong-jawed, blonde-haired, blue-eyed guys, even though a lot of the dudes on the front line are Italian, Irish, fucking black people, and everything else under the sun. You don't see our boys and then see Navajo code talkers in fucking World War II. You see our boys, which is this white ideal. And this like nuclear American family after the fact that people are trying to get to. And I'm going to get to this a little bit more too. And thus ceaseless mass education and examination of the populace must continue forever in order to achieve the ideal homogeneity of the desired traits. And also what's meant in that is basically the spying on your neighbor. You keep your neighbor honest. Is there a communist amongst us? If you think that your neighbor might be a communist, you need to report them today. Is your neighbor against the party? Anti-party sentiment and capitalist decadence is on the rise in Moscow. If your neighbor is stepping out of line, report them today to the Politburo. Whatever the fuck, you know what I mean? That's the comment. Reporting on your neighbor, trying to keep everybody in a state of paranoia and self-analysis. Following 3. Fascism further requires or will naturally develop the antithesis qualities or pure opposites of the specimens, rooting out these degenerate individuals who may or may not be equated with some form of real ethnic minority in the given region will by necessity become part of the state apparatus, either through re-education or elimination. The degeneracy problem will be articulated and solved. So once you've established your folk, you also have to establish by necessity what is not your folk. If it falls within the borders of where your folk are supposed to be, all other aspects of that are degenerate or suffering from, God damn it, the word's right on my fucking head. It's suffering from a mild amount of degeneracy. You might have to go to the work camp to even fix yourself. You need re-education because, you have some problems, but you're otherwise a good citizen. And it stems from like that little bit all the way out to we have Jews in our midst and must fucking bada final solution nastiness. That's the gamut, right? That's the level of intensity. Almost every single fascist society that I've seen that follows these rules has to articulate an interloper class, right? Basically, people that are among you that look like you and maybe even talk and sound like you, but they are secret degenerates. You know what I mean? Maybe a neighbor that fits the prescribed physical characteristics of your chosen specimen, but They have some sort of sexual proclivity that is unacceptable according to the norms. They have some sort of reading habits or some sort of disloyalty issues that are unacceptable to the norm, and they have to be ferreted out, identified, ferreted out, and fixed or eliminated. And usually along with this, somebody that ascribes to almost the perfect antithesis will be your, in this case, like a Jew, right? Whatever the fuck. If you're like in Nazi Germany, the Untermensch, the Jewish specimen, which is physically and mentally completely different than the German specimen. You have that again and again and again and again and again and again. You see this with fascists in America trying to articulate the interloper that they see, transgender people. And you see these characterized versions of a transgender with blue hair and crazy facial features, crooked teeth, missing flesh, poor grooming habits, poor hygiene habits, poor dressing habits. And this is the interloper. Okay. So like there, you have to identify this degenerate form, this interloper form, as an antithetical to the development and exaltation of the specimen form. You see this again happening in fascism to different degrees, and it's actually literally it's literally a necessity, because when you want to have that pure homogenized society, you will either by action or by incident articulate the non-internal class. And if you are going to start a fascist government, it's going to behoove you to articulate what is not that, because if other people start getting they start getting into the habit of articulating themselves, they're just going to start talking about anything that they don't like that their neighbors do, and then that power might be taken away from you, which is kind of the issue with why it's populist. I'm going to keep going through these definitions and finish it all up here in a second, but this is the populist aspect of fascism that separates it from simple monarchism or simple totalitarian authoritism. By any other extent, a military junta or something where it's just, there's a guy that's clearly at the fucking top and everything's for him. God-given theocratic regimes and stuff. When it's populist like this, and these things can also coexist, I'll get into that too. But when it's populist like this, the populace themselves keeps everybody else in line, right? Including the people at the top, who can often get trapped by the idealized notion of what should be there, which is why when you see fascist nations experience any sort of longevity, you need a strong man at the top to kind of do this stuff, but they're always articulating it that they do it for the people. Their warrant comes from the people, not from God or anything. Maybe a little bit, but not really. Because if they step out of that perfect, existence, you have to have your Lenin immortalized forever, then assassination or just a quick like little baby coup can put a new person in there that, as long as they ascribe to the ideal and they say we're for the people, then apropos of it doesn't matter about genetic legacy or heritage or like a will of an inheritor that passes down the power. The power is still afforded by the consent of the people in a very explicit way. And so you can have very quick, very violent and sudden changes of power that don't actually ripple that much through society compared to something like the War of the Roses or some other monarchical, who gets the crown type bloody internal civil war that spreads fucking way, way, way further and lasts a much, much, much longer time, because the heritage doesn't come from, and the inheritance and the will doesn't come from God via a line of conquerors and inbreeders and shit going back 600 years. It just comes from the people of the moment. Following number 4, rule 5 that I have, following number 4, fascism requires the establishment of an autarky or isolationist state that minimizes by necessity any possible foreign influence on the specimen populace. As such, fascism will further require the establishment of monstrously powerful border protections, either through direct physical means, such as the establishment of a no man's land border or of no man's land borders and physical walls, or through rigorous public documentation of the populace and constant surveillance, often a mixture of the two, as necessary. So if you're trying to maintain homogeneity, interlopers can also come in the form of the barbarian, so to say, which is something from outside that comes in and could potentially poison your populace. You know what I mean? Like degenerate capitalist interlopers, or Jewish fucking this and that's from America, Jewish American capitalists trying to disturb Aryan purity bullshit, whatever and what have you. So you create this autarchical region, right, with minimal interaction with the outside world. That doesn't mean none, right? Obviously, still trade is going to happen to some degree, but if you have something like North Korea, it really fucking doesn't. You know what I mean? They have a true autarky there, with walls and a no man's land and mass surveillance and fucking documentation of the people that are inside. But even they still have some trade in and out. But the point is, the trade is not free trade amongst, any individual. Trade is only going to be done through the highest, most well-positioned members of whatever the folk calls itself. You know what I mean? The party, the people, the folk, a member of the ruling class, whatever have you, which is not going to be articulated as the oligarchy it might look like. It's going to be articulated as people who are most emblematic of really what it means to be a German, in 1945, 1935, whatever the fuck, or the most, a true worker, you know what I mean, a part of the party, somebody that's incorruptible, so to say. Those are going to be the people that do trade, and they're going to do massive deals. They're going to be controlling like the entirety of it through very, very tight channels, in order to minimize corrupting influence and interlopers. Because usually where multiculturalism happens and where liberalism happens is port cities and trade cities, because you have a lot of people that come in on their caravans or their trains or their boats or what have you, planes, and they set up shop because they want to operate a business there. You just heavily regulate that and make sure that they know that they can't step out of bounds. Basically, you're bound by the laws here, but you have your little embassy, you have your little enclave, and that's controlled even tighter, the entrance in and out of it, and everybody that kind of deals with that is going to be hyper observed. You don't have to have necessarily big walls and stuff to have an autarky. If you have a society, particularly with modern intel, and this is one of the reasons that like Umberto Eco is kind of falling by the wayside, because just stuff when he's talking about 1930s, 1920s fucking Italy, 1920s to the 1940s Italy versus 1920s America, what you can accomplish with American surveillance can get you a lot of what seemed like what you could only achieve through brute force and violence back in the day. Monitoring people, controlling their ability to make purchases or take on loans and debt, monitor their ability and change their ability to travel, to do transit in and out of states. Those are the ways that you can control the homogeneity of your population inside your control center. That's how you can do it without it seeming like you all have guns at your back. You keep the guns out of sight. You keep the cameras in sight, and the cameras come with the understanding of there's a gun 3 screens at least behind it. Tyler defining what an American during World War II would consider our boys when you could just point to his face. Fucking square-headed ass motherfucker. But yeah, fascism requires the establishment of an autarky. All that, often a mixture of the two is necessary. And 6 is basically my final of the current set of definitions. Following 5, fascism will at some point require a Lebensraum movement in order to adapt to the natural diminishment of resources that comes from minimizing travel through state borders, and will thus seek to push its borders outward through some series of nebulous arguments regarding natural claims by its people, often to the immediately surrounding lands. You see this with Israel, which I consider pretty much an ethno-fascist state, an ethno-state. Ethno-states tend to be fascist. It's for the people, the Jewish people. Russia, Germany back in the day, and a series of other tin pot dictatorships and fascist states that have existed throughout history, is once you have articulated that this is our area, right, you'll probably immediately start remembering that also that used to be our area too. We have kind of an ancestral claim to that land. Or even if you can't get it in writing, you know what I mean? Or legitimately, I just have a vibe. I have a vibes-based connection to the land around me. Or, some mixture of that. And for self-defense purposes, because I'm nervous, I believe that we need to move our borders into this region. in order to protect the folk, in order to protect my people from annihilation or corruption or whatever and what have you. You see this happen again and again and again and again and again. The reason these are stacked in this direction, I'll be getting into further. 1, 2, and 3 are necessary for generally somebody to be a fascist in their own right. You know, like just walking around saying like, I'm a fascist because I am, that kind of thing. The rules at 4 going to 6 are what you need to see or what are required to actually turn your fascist social movement into something that directly affects the statecraft of a given geographic region. It's the change from what I call desirous fascism, what you would see explicated by somebody like a Richard Spencer or a Nick Fuentes, where it's I desire this, or Matt Walsh, I desire this for these reasons, but I am limited by my access to state power. So you can still be a fascist and not have fascism yet. Whereas 5 through 6 or 4 through 6 are what you can achieve once state power is in hand. That's where you are going to go. That's why it says sort of following, because those things sort of once fascist ideals have started directing policy decisions. And one of the reasons I separate it, because like fascism doesn't actually like articulate specificities. It just kind of can't. Because the specificities are going to be material to wherever you are. You know what I mean? One place, you know, if you have, you know, nation A that becomes hyper fascist, right? And their whole thing is this like this predilection or this fascination on this need for water because it's a landlocked nation and it became fascist after a drought. And their whole thing is about eliminating all of these fucking like degenerate people just because they're between them and this natural water source that they want. You would see like this thing where this motive of water comes up again and again and again and again and again and again and again. It's still fascist, but if you base everything in your definition on fascism around them, you might start articulating fascism as also something that requires this desperate need, articulated desperate need for natural resources and blah, 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 when it's really just, you know, one of these first 3 things that can fit very cleanly within that, because you'll have nation B that doesn't give a shit about it at all. Because nation B is this like seafaring island nation that has shitloads of natural aquifers and stuff on this island. And they have a land of plenty agriculturally, but what their whole like psychotic hyper focus on is this like industrialization, you know, and we need to like capture people, or we needed to articulate like this sort of underclass again and again and again because we needed cheap labor in order to industrialize the nation. And their whole thing is this motive of laziness and incompetence and you know, like a focus on like bad reading, bad words, so to say, bad scholarliness that leads to laziness and people being layabouts and this sort of that. And like it'll be a completely different motive, but basically why the things started showing up and how they got enacted is the same thing. It's still fascism, but if you start trying to hyper focus on the specificities of why that fascism was enacted in an area and start trying to append those reasonings to the development of fascism itself, you'll stop recognizing it when it shows up because you'll have created a rule or something that you're desperately looking for, like racism with, or anti-Semitism specifically, but also in racism with the Nazis. If you keep trying to find that in these ways that they enacted their fascist ideals through statecraft, if you start focusing on the statecraft itself, essentially, you will put yourself in a position where you can't recognize it when it happens somewhere else, which is the major issue with the left, which is one of the reasons why I wanted to talk about it so much. Fascism with what characteristics? I mean, seriously, the with X characteristics is kind of the point of this, that you start seeing pop up again and again and again. The pause, Tyler is really enjoying himself, like that big old smile. He's having a good time. I'm always having a good time. The final 2 paragraphs here are a further explanation of sort of everything behind. And like I said, this is in the stream chat. I might independently put every little bit of it in at some point. But as fascism is a social movement, similar to a religion, it won't necessarily be homogeneously presented through the entirety of a state that prescribes to or was formed from fascist tenets. One could, for instance, be a desirous fascist that wants to introduce fascism to a given state structure, a de facto fascist who adheres to the social conceits of a fascist state out of a sense of propriety or civic duty, or an opportunistic fascist that espouses or adheres to fascistic principles in pursuit of some other goal. A state that adopts fascist principles in its governance may also be subject to one of these or a host of other transigent states as it moves toward or away from a more perfect fascist constitution. Thus, it should be said that fascism is as impermanent as the ideals which it strives to diminish or replace, and may at any time be collapsing or building itself, and the non-presence of certain of the above 6 conditions does not necessarily indicate a lack of fascist intent or the absolute historical non-presence of fascism. And moreover, as fascism is a social movement and not a system of governmental administration, as well as a populist movement, that observation of individuals and like-minded groups will always be a stronger indicator of desirousness of fascism and or its presence. Desire. Okay, well, whatever the fuck. I'll fix that up. So ultimately, a lot of the issues from fascism, one of the things I think he was saying, which I had to pop it, is that there is no end state to fascism. Well, there's also no end state to governance. There's no end state to liberalism. You know what I mean? There is no, the project may never really be complete. In the case of fascism, you're just eventually going to have to narrow down to one. And it's the whole thing. I'd have to go off on another like hour-long tangent to get to the end of it, which is going to be a video at some point in the future. But fascists do have a goal. The goal, the primary, first and foremost goal of fascism is the health of the state through purity of the state. Literally just if fascism is starting to rise, it's usually because people want to identify interlopers within a state region that they find to be antithetical to the heritage of the region, and they want to achieve a purity of people in order to make the state function well again and support the existence of the people. That's really it. Like if the people are all happy and the people are all exemplary of what a people should be, that's kind of the actual end state of fascism, or the success state, really. An end state suggests, I don't know, the end of history. It's kind of a bad way to talk about governance because like what is the end state of a monarchy? You know what I mean? It's like, well, the king's the king, I guess, until he dies, and then his kid becomes the next king. Like it's the end state of any governmental system or any revolutionary system is basically just equilibrium, achieving a state of continuance with that state. I have to use the words, 2 different variations. So just achieving a goddamn state, literally achieving a state of equilibrium for the people that are affected by the specific type of governance that you've put into place based on the ideals of fascism. And for liberalism, the same thing. And for communism, the exact same thing. That's kind of it. Utopic socialism is kind of unique, and utopic idealism is its own fucking thing. It's kind of like self-defeating, because if you know what the word means and you're saying like, I'm trying to achieve a utopia, you're like literally saying it's a pipe dream.
That unifies everybody, the capitalist, the worker, everybody. That is the fundamental core principle of fascism as that mobilizing force. So fascism as a mobilizing force in this way, you're not required to privatize all industry. You're not required to nationalize all industry. The economics aspect or how you organize these things don't really matter as much as what fascism is as a mobilizing force. And that's the danger of it as well. The danger of fascism is getting people aligned with a particular kind of mythos that can enable them to do some pretty insane things or be okay with or vote for very insane things. That's what.
See, that's also bullshit. That's not the danger of fascism. That's the danger of government. Fascism isn't uniquely dangerous compared to almost any other form of government. Like that's kind of the thing. The issues with fascism from a strictly like observational standpoint is that fascism requires a cultural stagnancy that will annihilate whoever brings it in. Fascism must be temporary, or you will destroy the people, because you will always continually there. No one can be perfect and actually achieve the so every time there's a problem with the country, it's going to be blamed on degeneracy in the population that will require more and more and more culls until you run out of people eventually, or you'll have to shut yourself off away from the rest of the world to the point that you'll set yourself up for invasion and destruction because you can't maintain technological superiority for the inevitability of a future conflict if you don't interact. Like, North Korea exists basically because it maybe might have nukes, but also because no one really gives a fuck about North Korea's resources. If North Korea had something that everybody wanted, it probably wouldn't be that much to knock over North Korea, because it's been so isolated that destroying it or conquering it, especially if you're just even another fascist nation, wouldn't be that much of a fucking issue. Like, if China wants North Korea's whatever, China's gonna fucking have it the second it wants it. That's the issue with fascism. But fascism is with its capability of violence is no different than almost any other sense of governance. People can whip themselves up to murder at the drop of a hat. Fascism isn't somehow more dangerous than the governance that was practiced by the Khanates in the steppe. You know what I mean? The Eurasian steppe. They just fucking slaughtered the shit out of people and stacked heads 100 high. American social liberalism and republicanism engaged in a genocide against the Native Americans that really does just outstrip the fuck out of what happened to the Jewish people in Germany by scale. Like, insane. We literally annihilated so many fucking Native American cultures that what's left is just this hodgepodge of ideas that the Native Americans sort of half managed to save and half heard, but a lot of them have just been forced in. So you'll have people that used to be, that are by heritage Shawnee, that are being raised in like a Navajo tradition, because that's what's left. You know what I mean? That, like, for them. So it's this idea. And you go to the monarchies. I mean, there's no fascism that enacted the Spanish Inquisition. That wasn't fascism. That was just religious insanity. Insanity isn't unique to most any forms of governance. Insanity is inherent to humanity. And if you get people scared, if you get people fired up, and especially if you attach the multiplier that is industrial violence, and violence at the industrial scale, you'll see numbers that are fucking skyrocketing. We think of fascism as being particularly bad because of the 1940s and Hitler, and to a lesser extent, because we don't talk about it as much, Stalin's fucking industrial slaughters of people throughout the USSR, the Holodomor, the hold the door, whatever the fuck. I can never say that word right because Jordan Peterson said it wrong once, and now I flip it back and forth in my head. And that's Lysenko and whatever, and fucking just doing gibberish with trying to put crops together and doing mass famines and stuff. Fascism does not answer the question of why genocide happens remotely. Does fascism require genocide? More than likely, yeah, to institute itself. And for that, it's bad. But genocides happen as a matter of course because people want stuff that other people have. And that's going to happen again and again and again. Fascism does naturally lead to genocide. Thus, it is bad. And it leads to stagnancy. Thus, it is bad. But it's not unique, and you shouldn't pretend that it's unique, because you will ignore the fact that so many other forms of governance have done all the exact same shit. And sometimes at scales that really just ponder the mind when it's, compared historically. They didn't keep numbers or keep books, really. 150 years of just slaughtering Muslims and people in the fucking Middle East because of the ideas of crusades, going into fucking Jerusalem and killing all of the Muslims and installing a Catholic fucking state. That wasn't ethno-fascism. That was just bog standard that was just Catholicism. That was just being a good Catholic according to the fucking papal bulls and decrees of the day. Theocratic monarchies and all that whole thing. So it can go all over the place, and it's kind of ridiculous to ascribe that to, or to pretend that it's somehow worse than all these other horrible forms of government They're just bad. There's no need to fucking doomsay over it.
That's what makes fascism so dangerous. The title of this is "Leftists are not immune to fascism." Well, that's obviously true based on this premise of what is fascism. You can have leftists that are mobilized by this idea that maybe the proletarian state is going to take you to communism. That aligning yourself, the workers, the industry, etc., under the purview of the proletarian state is that mythos that you are attaching yourself to, and then that can be red fascism or whatever, right? Fascism as a mobilizing force under a like leftist ideology or whatever. So that's how it would happen. I just want to get that out of the way so that we're all on the same page about that. Usually when people talk about fascism, they have no idea what it is, how to talk about it, or anything like that. And we'll see.
So actually, like, a lot of conservative, like mid-tier conservatives would probably agree with Hitler on a fuckload of shit. And as a matter of fact, the further we get away from World War II, the more you see it happen. Like, obviously, Nazis are bad. Brave statement, I know. The mass slaughter and depredation of Jewish people and basically any non-white, non-German individuals and the relentless war that they waged, that was bad.
Yes. Thank you for saying that.
The political capital they got for that wasn't just predicated solely on the hate against those individuals. That's the shortcoming that people have when they try to describe, like, where did Nazism coming from? Because there's nothing special about Nazis that does not exist in the hearts of all of you today.
I think there's probably some special things that would separate me from them, yeah.
You can
I
really don't. I don't really think so. The fact that you don't think that you could do that is usually the biggest indicator that you're the most capable of doing it. It's crazy. There's no people, there's very few people on earth that have ever engaged in these horrors and didn't think that they were the most moral person. That's the thing. That's what gets you there, is that you think you're the most moral person. They think they're justified. They think they're helping. That's the road to hell is paved with good intentions, means that if you have unquestioned good intentions in your mind and you think that you're a moral person and too moral to do a horrible and despicable thing, that makes you more susceptible to do it. It's kind of thinking, it's like thinking you're too smart to get fucking swindled. You're the easier target. Everybody that thinks they're too smart for a con are the fucking perfect rubes. That's the point. You can still get there. German people, the same German people that live in Germany right now that now know better are still just the descendants of Nazis.
What does that mean? Like genetically?
Like the reasonable go about. No, mimetically, because you're like literally living in the same society that talk about the thing that happened. Mimetic legacy is also a thing. More important thing. Kind of individuals.
Mimetic
legacy is actually literally more important because Nazis weren't actually Aryan. Aryans are fucking brown skinned anyway. It's like Indo-Aryan. It's a whole thing. But basically, like, Pakistanis are fucking... That's actually Aryan, is that area. Like, Pakistan, fucking India. Not... It's just a whole confused bunch of bullshit. The Nazis fucked it up. They thought that they were proto-whatever the fucks. Hyperborea. Wagner gibberish. Nibble that you see put in a different circumstance can create a Nazi. Like the shit that fucking Donald Trump was saying that's similar to like what fucking Hitler would be saying and blah 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 blah. Most of their policy prescriptions and their packages are nice sounding shit. The articulating like, I think that the world's not fair. The articulating that why does your tax money go away and then you don't see good things happen? Like anybody can do that. That's the beginning of the divide. That's how it goes from the precursor state in the direction of something that's not fascism and something that is.
I don't know what that means.
I'm not surprised. Is how you start approaching and answering those questions. It starts there with the same sort of talking points again and again and again and again. If you start naming random policy prescriptions, people are gonna go like, oh, okay, I fucking get it. If you have to rephrase them slightly to make them sound less like Germany in the 1930s and more like America in the upcoming 2030s that we're going to be existing through, you're going to find a lot of crossovers. It's not going to be completely perfect. And yeah, there's hate and shit. And of course, that hate is integral to it. Hate on every side of the political fucking spectrum, on every fucking side of it. Yeah, you can observe this guy. He's way fucking crazier than we are. We're not crazy at all. I'm literally talking about him. Fuck fucking idiot mauled it. The second lefties even lift their thumb off that boiling pot lid for more than a fraction of a second, where do all of a sudden we've got tankies that sound exactly like us but slightly different, to the point where people on the other side of the aisle can't fucking tell the difference. It's just a natural weakness in humanity and trying to pretend that your system, bro, watch out for that. This fucking chat is zooming over here. This dude's chat, God, how do you keep track of it? Preclude its possibility simply through the natural, ideologically more moral fiber of the system than the other system is just ideology, and that is actually going to get you closer to everything blowing up in your face. There's actually almost next to no reason for me to listen to me talking because he's skipping through it. This is one of the things I saw down below, because I know I was like double checking, like to see like, okay, how did he make it this short? So he skips through in his editing a bunch of my stuff. I guess he's trying to get to the points that he cares about, but his people below are like, what is this guy fucking talking about? I don't understand what he's talking about from this video. And it's like, yeah, he fucking trimmed me down. You absolute fucking inbreeders. Fuck are you talking about? So yeah, I'm skipped throughout here. I guess I just gotta, I know what I'm gonna say to for you guys at home. This isn't me defining fascism at this point. It's the point of my video, which is literally just lefties are not insusceptible to fascism. It's me talking about fascist basically saying that socialist precursor conditions, economic fears, depredation by an unapproachable or basically extreme class differences between you and whoever the fuck's in charge of you, bad economic conditions, and a fear of losing control of the future of your country or of your the moral spirit of your country or yourself or your people, like those kind of things together, along with an actual weakness in the government that would provide a sense or provide some sort of momentum toward revolution. Those things together are what I would call socialist revolutionary precursor conditions. You can get your fucking Bolshevism out of it. You can get your social liberalism out of it, literally too. You know, you can have the American we the people come out of it as well. And those conditions will come out again and again and again, maybe even after a revolution happens. And when those precursor conditions occur, and populism basically starts getting popular, you can go to a beneficial, good, benevolent sense of socialism, or you can articulate socialist principles but end up with fascism, which happens just again and again and again, particularly when the monarchies stopped collapsing as the Industrial Revolution went on, and we moved from basically the 1800s into the 1900s, and you see a series of societal collapses that turn into constitutional monarchies, into parliamentary monarchies, into full liberal democracies, and also into fascist dictatorships, fascist oligarchies, fascist democracies, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, throughout the entirety of Europe. And now you're starting to see it spread throughout the entirety of the world as the rape of Africa and the rape of East Asia kind of ends, and communism spread throughout blah, 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 late 1900s, and even up until now, as different countries industrialize, you're starting to see these same sort of momentums occur, and you're starting to see the same sort of results happen again and again and again in the global south and whatever. Basically, as the global north countries get their hands either blown off the pot lids or removed, or they lose the power to kind of extend imperial influence toward the south, these places are going through their own tumultuous revolution cycles, which are leading to fascism, sometimes leading to socialism, sometimes leading to liberal democracy, and going kind of all over the place. And those tumultuous regions are going to remain tumultuous for a while until the people really get to a point where they've settled into an equilibrium of what they want. But it's just the case. Pursuing these issues with kind of just a curmudgeonly pessimistic belief that things are going to fuck up. Oh yeah, but I was saying that's the point that I'm making, is that these precursor conditions can lead to fascism, and they don't have to necessarily be nationwide to lead somebody down a path toward fascism. They'll call it whatever the fuck they want, but you can just get fascism from them, right? And lefties are not immune to it. That's the entire point that I'm making. I don't think I defined fascism again there. I just said that it's an issue.
For right now, I'm trying to get the idea. I'm getting the idea that he's saying that fascism is hate. I'm thinking violent authoritarianism is what he equates it to, which
That's wrong. You're fucking completely off.
close. Yeah, but it doesn't really like tell you what it is.
Germany was Natsock, not fascist. Natsocks are fascists.
Tell him what a fascist is.
Sorry, you can be both.
How?
What are you talking about?
Yeah, okay, tell them how. It's a big pet peeve of mine when people just kind of gesture at things that people like ought to know. Sorry to tell you, but like you're basically being treated as the authority. They don't want to be.
Okay, so this is KidNotKin. This is the moment where I get to fucking lean in. You're a fucking idiot, bud. You're stupid as shit. You're not understanding what the fucking point of the conversation is. The definition's much longer. Also, I'm pretty sure relative to this, I presented the definition some the fuck where else. Very often I reference like, hey, go check out this other thing. I'm pretty sure when this came out, it's me talking about the Starship Troopers video essay, which would have come out probably a few days before, or maybe the day of at some point right around here. The end of that, I do one of my quick definitions of fascism. I've defined it a number of times. I can't return to defining it every fucking time it comes up. Otherwise, I just did it here earlier. It takes a while because it's a complicated subject to get into. And so I'm not going to fucking redefine it every time. It's just stupid as shit. It's bad content. Understand, if you're doing this, that's why no one wants to watch your shit, man.
Be treated like they just ought to know these things. If you think it's important, explain it. Seems pretty straightforward. We need to teach people what happened in Germany under Hitler can happen to anyone. There are lessons.
Bro, do you even need to bring up your fucking chat? There's only like 10 fucking people in there. Teach people that what happened in Germany under Hitler can happen to anyone. There are lessons to be taught. We need to know how things happen. How do millions of people become bad?
We need to know how these things happen. How do millions of people become bad?
I just went over that.
That's why whenever I talk about fascists, I give you basically the introduction that I gave earlier about like, okay, a few things that you have to know about why fascism exists. It was used for a particular reason. Fascism did not exist as just like a excuse to kill a bunch of people. It's basically like, how do we make the most efficient process for the purpose of the strength of the nation state or whatever possible? What is the best possible way that you could do that?
That's just gibberish. That what in the fuck does that? Who wouldn't want that? Who wouldn't want an efficient connection between the people and governance? What is being able to call my congressperson like the same thing? You know what I mean? That doesn't vibe. I don't understand how you arrived at that, and I don't understand how that gets to fascism. I know it's like, of course you wouldn't, but that's not explained in a valuable way, or how that's predictive of fascism, or in a way that you could potentially prevent it by articulating it ahead of time. That just seems like something that you heard somewhere and are repeating, and maybe haven't actually like personally looked into very often.
Fascism is. That's what it's about. To be clear, by the way, because there are things which are maybe like fascist ideas. Lots of people have fascist ideas that will treat the state as the authority or think of people as a collection of people under the purview of the state as such. Those kind of ideas happen all the time. And they happen for people that I wouldn't call fascist or anything like that. But those kinds of ideas happen all the time. When Donald Trump will talk about things like, we need to make sure that all industry is happening here. Like any industry that is going overseas is a bad thing. It needs to happen here. We need to make sure that everything is happening within here. The entire economy is something that is stationed here. It's not good for consumers.
So this is like a week before fucking Starship Troopers. So I'm probably talking about finishing it up. Or it just came up. I don't know.
It's not good for the economy. It's not good for the United States in the purview of a global economy. Whenever you end up like talking about things like the tariffs or whatever, you'll find a lot of the times that the motivation for these kinds of economic arguments always tend to fall back on America first. Even if it's not good for the economy, America first. Well, you know, if it is going to be raising prices for consumers just like a little bit, like it's better that it's America first. Why? So like that kind of reasoning, you could say that that's like a fascist reasoning. In and of itself, it doesn't make it fascist, but that's the kind of motivation that a fascist...
Well, you're articulating nationalism, which can be an aspect of fascism very easily, you know, very, very commonly go hand in hand, but that's just, they don't have to necessarily always be together. You're just articulating nationalism. And you're also articulating kind of like good domestic policy. Yeah, if you're making trades or you're making decisions based on your country, having it be like, favoring your country is usually the best thing to do. Thinking of other countries before your country is actually a horrible idea. if you want to be in charge of your country. If you want to be in charge of that other country or help that other country, it's another thing. But like, I guess maybe if it's your ally. But no, that's just pretty common. This America First is, a very fascist thing. Fascists love it, but also like that's one of the reasons it's appealing is because it does feel like we make decisions for other countries before ourselves and consider the economic interests of other people before we consider our own, which is it's bad governance. It's just it's a bad thing to do, particularly in a liberal democracy, even because you'll not get elected, as evidenced by Kamala Harris and the tariffs being very popular for whatever the fuck reason with Donald Trump voters, mostly because a bunch of them don't quite understand them. But tariffs are a protectionist policy and a nationalist policy.
Fascists might try to convince you of. There's a million other examples that you could point to. What is the thing that you're mobilizing people towards? What kind of arguments are you giving people? What is the thing that you're trying to convince them of? Moving towards this purview of politics where, as Mussolini said, nothing outside of the state, everything within the state. People unironically believe that raising prices on imports will increase domestic production. Well, it can, and that's often what tariffs are used for. If you are moving production to somewhere where labor is cheaper, then you're going to have cheaper commodities, and you're going to have a higher surplus. If you move all of these industries back home and you start using more expensive labor, you're going to have more expensive commodities and a lower surplus. Sorry.
I know people that think anarchy is the way to go, but leads straight to fascism, as you said. The issue with anarchism is that nobody does it.
Nobody does what?
Anarchism. The issue with anarchism.
What does an anarchist do?
As a sort of parting. What does the anarchist do? They get on Reddit and they talk about the future. What do anarchists do? Anarchists log on to the internet and they talk about the future. That's what anarchists do. Every anarchist has said, if I was in charge, I would. If we just got together, we could. Tomorrow's a great day. Maybe that's when we should. That's what anarchists do. They say that again and again and again. Anarchists work their ass off to do fucking next to nothing. Some of them are fucking really good. Some of them do good shit by working with non-anarchists and participating with non-anarchic causes. Thought to this entire segment is that anarchism has only ever been done right once, and it's by the anarchist you are immediately talking to in the moment you're having that conversation about anarchism. If there's two anarchists in a room and they agree with each other, the one that is going to gossip about the other anarchist when that one leaves the room is the one that's right about the anarchism.
I'm really interested to know what he thinks fascism is out of all this. He's talking about who is and is not a fascist, like what leftism works, what leftism doesn't work, or whatever. But he hasn't really identified what any of it is. I
mean, fascism really does kind of develop from a type of socialism. There's a lot of crossover.
What?
And you can reappend the definitions used to establish what is and isn't fascist to a lot of old fucking societies as well.
What is fascism?
But really, it does have to be more populist. Is one of the key tenets of fascism in my mind, and via my definitions of it, is that
what is fascism?
That fascism does have to be specifically populist in its intent. Dude, God, these are fucking not dunks, but I feel like he thinks they are. I'm not in the room with you. I'm on a video. I'm on a video. I can't answer that. Just either look in the transcript to get to it, or you know, just let it play. What in the fuck? What are you achieving? Why do you keep doing that? Obviously, I feel like just anybody that's listening to me talk can tell that I've definitely defined it at some point, and I have. I've gone over that definition like 80 goddamn times on the channel, so I just don't go over it a bunch because it's long as shit. I'm clearly having a different kind of conversation, right? But the ultimate point is, you know, okay, if we get back to that definition or something, I mean, you could have just asked me and I would have just fucking written it out for him. That's the other funny thing is he's like, you have to come on here to get me to answer this. He could have just fucking asked me when he DM'd me, like, how do you define fascism? Could you just provide it in written form? And I probably would have like sat down and written it out over the next couple of days, but he didn't. And I wasn't going to fucking hold his hand through that either. So like this is all based on the conceit that I can't define fascism, but he never asked me to. But he communicated with me, And I gave him the fucking way to talk to me. Literally call in during the 16 hours I'm here. If you can't call in and you have a question, fucking type it in. Send me a super chat. Ask me to go over it at some point and remind me to do it when I'm not busy doing other shit, and I'll get to it. Or just look up when I fucking defined it earlier on the goddamn thing, or earlier on the channel, which I've done before. The usual one I go to is fascism is when you define a group of people, you draw a circle around it, and you say all of these people have to be the same way inside this circle, and everyone that's inside this circle that's not like them has to get eliminated by either getting kicked out of the circle or becoming by force or by some other means just like the rest of the people that are in the circle. That's basically kindergarten grade description of fascism that I've given like 10 million fucking times. But the conceit here that I'm not defining fascism when I never said I was going to. I was just saying that leftists are fucking are could get into it because I'm describing these precursor conditions. I don't even think the definition is necessary here. I think even just the bog standard look it up in the fucking dictionary definition of fascism would still stand, because I'm saying the conditions that lead to socialism can also lead to fascism. And so that's the main crux of the argument. He's trying to say that I'm not providing evidence for an argument I'm literally just not even fucking making. But also the conceit that I can't provide the definition is just inherently fucking untrue. I just did it here earlier. And also, like, you were kind of a pushy little cunt, and you're kind of an unlikable fucking twat. You know what I mean? You're kind of a dislikable little shit, KidNotKin. Kind of a little fuck. Kind of a pushy little bitch, and you were rude in our DMs. And I gave you the fucking opportunity in the way to ask me a question like a normal person, and you didn't want that. And you didn't take advantage of it. So now pretending like I can't define it because you want to ask me these questions that I guess you wanted to ask me on your show that I had to presume to show up on to answer your fucking question. You could have hopped in a call. You could have been like, hey man, do you got a time for like a quick call? I don't even know how to necessarily goddamn. You're too close to President Sunday. I would have probably assumed that you were doing it, but I think I might have done that. But like show up on a scheduled amount for like your scheduled program when I said you could show up on mine, and I have a bigger platform and I'm way more professional about actually like getting my shit together than you are. It's absolutely duplicitous. It's like little shithead behavior. You're kind of a fucking prick fuck. I kind of don't like you. I think you're maybe a piece of shit. I think you are. I think you're kind of a fuckhead. I think you're a bad guy. I think you should be treated badly. It has to be for the people.
The thing that people find really confusing is that the difference between what is in the public interest versus appealing to a public interest. So like if someone is appealing to a public interest, then they'll say it's populist versus something that is
backpack, goalpost for the road, baby. Yeah.
Also populist. So like is populism a good thing or a bad thing? And it's like, well, what are we talking about?
Can I show the DMs? Just rewind. I read it's 5 messages back and forth between each other. I read it at the start of this segment.
Are we talking about something that is in the public interest? You could say that something is utilizing populist rhetoric or pretending to be populist, or you're referring to populism as just like appealing to the people, but then it just gets so watered down. But like no one should be able to say that fascism is in the interest of the people, or that fascism is designed with the interests of the people in mind. That would be ridiculous.
I just have to defer to Umberto Eco's fascism.
God damn it. I don't like Umberto Eco, like these lists that people have made. This is how you know if something's fascist, if it checks off all of these marks. If that's the way that you're defining fascism, you don't know what it is.
No, that's... God damn it! You said the wrong thing. A lot of those lists are technically bad, where they just kind of arbitrarily add stuff, but having a list of characteristics that something has to achieve in order to be the thing is how definitions work. That's how you define something, by including a bunch of characteristics that get you in the ballpark of where it is. Like if you ever played 20 questions, you know what I mean? And you answer like those 20 questions and you say like, oh, that's that thing. Same deal. You know what I mean? Maybe not quite as accurate, but goddamn.
What does fascism do? That is the question. That is the question. What does fascism do? Oh, well, these are the things that it does. And it's like, no, these are things that it could do. That's why people say that like, oh, if there's like the majority of this list is checked off, then it's fascism or something like that. It's like, well, that just communicates that you don't know what fascism is.
How? I don't think it's a bad place. No, that's the stupidest fucking thing you've said. What do you mean? What? It's like, oh yeah. So if I have a list, if I say that like, if I say that like a dog is like a vertebrate mammal, right? Of the family like Canis domesticus, and my dog is a vertebrate, and it's a mammal, and it's a member of Canis domesticus, and his name is Buck, and he has a little collar that says Buck on it because that's my guy, and he's a little brindle bub, and he responds to his name. If I give you a list of traits that define a thing, I am defining the thing, you fucking moron. What are you? This is what you get for being in President Sunday's orbit. Oh my God, dude, the pseudosphere is fucking nuts. This is bonkers. Like unironic. If you want to hate me, go for it. But that he said that so explicit is crazy. Like, yeah, okay, some of the people that have the arbitrary, what you wanted to say, if you're not trying to sound like a fucking idiot, KidNotKin, is adding arbitrary, non-definitive characteristics to definitive characteristics in the list is bad. I already went over that. That's true. But using a list of definitive characteristics of something to define it is just how we describe things. You just came out against adjectives, you fucking idiot. What the fuck? My man over here, just true President Sunday orbiter. What you need to do is take adjectives out of the question. Motherfucker, bro. To start, but I think fascism is extremely lacking. Without getting into it and reopening the entire thing, my issues with Umberto Eco's fascism is that he appends a lot of very important. How was Buck's pulled muscle doing? He's better. He was better overnight. He just had to sleep it off. He's good. I think he's still got some issues, so we might have to take him to the vet in the next few months. When my back is good enough that I can help lift him into the car and I don't have to worry about him. We might end up having to take him to the vet to get double checked, but he's good. He's not in pain and he can get up and down off the bed, and he's eating and running around like a fucking maniac in the backyard, which we really can't control him doing. And I would like, I don't know. How can you make a dog not run around and be happy? It's like, dude, that's my Silent Hill monster that haunts me. It's like letting my dog get hurt by letting him enjoy being a dog. Like the no-win situation that just haunts me and makes me want to fucking die. Things that are kind of standard functions to like almost any government that would ever possibly exist to it. And really, without getting in, because I'd have to pull it up, otherwise I don't want people having to complain about like what specific tenet of it are you upset with. Generally, my criticism of fascism is it was clearly put together by somebody who had lingering trauma from from World War II. And
why don't you just say what fascism is?
The fascist. Why would I? Are you fucking? This can't be real. This can't be fucking real. This guy cannot be this fucking stupid. Was that it? Was that? Did you get fucking drunk with President Sunday and he like got in your fucking? You just need to ask him. Just ask him to define fascism. You'll have him. You'll have him over a barrel. Or something, because you got this one question you keep asking. I'm answering a different fucking question. I'm just literally talking about Umberto Eco's fucking breakdown of this stuff and what I don't like about it. As just being explanatory. It could be literally about anything definitively. My criticisms of it aren't just that it's not great, it's not perfect at describing fascism. I would have the same criticisms if you used the same methodology and breakdown to describe anything. That's the point. Like this is not for you. This is not for you. You're so alienated from how to fucking have this discussion. It's crazy. I'm breaking down what is bad with his analysis of something. The quantitative contents of the thing that he's describing are not necessary, because what I'm saying is how he is describing it, the logic does not follow syllogistically to the final definition. It's not like, hey, this A plus B is always going to give you C. So basically he's added stuff that's kind of more vibes based than it is actual definitional. you know, and defining of the characteristics of the final thing. Vibes based is always going to be vibes based because it's literally just his subjective opinion in certain respects, which I respect his opinion that he had it, but his trauma from the event, I'm saying, makes those things less overall valuable in being predictive. Also, something being very, very old while a type of social movement has continued to exist and evolve and progress into new forms, will make something dated. The stuff that I'm talking about could become dated, obviously, you know, in a day, a month, a year. Once you get into decades, it gets more extreme. That's the point. I don't need to define fascism. And if I had defined fascism at some other point and you had just skipped past it, it would be even more accurate. And I've defined it based on my definition a number of times before. But also, even in this case, I'm accepting Umberto Eco's definition. Literally, I say, like, I have respect for what he did. I just think it's imperfect for these fucking reasons. You can still arrive at my definition eventually by understanding that. If you pause and say, like, well, why haven't you defined it, is not remotely a fucking response. Also, because this isn't a full essay. It's not like I'm sitting down and going start to finish through the entirety of this, and it's the first mention I've ever done. The redefining fascism thing has come up a number of times. I think I do it literally like once a fucking month. So it's probably stemmed from that. I don't even know if I actually just even went over it during this subsection. But it's just completely fucking unnecessary. What you fucking goober. You fucking goober. And also, he could have fucking just asked me. Occupation of Italy? I don't know how to say that right, but it does feel like an occupation when he talks about it. Just understand that I think even Umberto Eco said it was kind of not supposed to be like the final defining characteristics. Kid has been on Tomfoolery's show at least 20 times more than Sundays. I yelled at Tomfoolery when I was doing the hippy dippy recruitment show because he wouldn't fix his fucking microphone. It was too goddamn quiet. And other people who talk about it extensively, more so than I do, probably will give you considerably better.
I'm confused. What is fascism again? The state is an organism, and you are a blood cell. Making sure that this organism is healthy and survives.
Okay, I thought I thought I clicked on something. What is that music change up?
You are a blood cell. Making sure that this organism is healthy and survives is of utmost importance. That's what fascism is. The idea was, how do we mobilize people in a way that is the most productive for the state? And then taking note from the mobilizing power of Marxism, but the problem with Marxism is that it divides.
Why that fucking music is actually like covering you up? Why did he add fucking red pill music to this? I can't follow exactly what the fuck he's saying. Hold on.
People on the basis of class, taking note from the mobilizing power of Marxism, but the problem with Marxism is that it divides people on the basis of class, and so what you need to do is you need to have people united within their differences of class. So then you have the workers and the capitalists hand in hand working for the authority of the state. Nothing outside of the state, everything within the purview of the state. The state is the organism. You are the blood cell. You're the blood cell as a worker, as a janitor, as a capitalist, as a soldier, etc. You are a blood cell. You are just one part of this greater machine. The greater machine is the state, nothing outside of the state, everything within the state. The only thing that matters is the state, the health of the state, the authority of the state, everything within the purview of the state, period. There's no other reality than your own reality within the purview of the state.
Fascism. Did my man just use a blood cell to analogize fascism? Fascism is when you live in a society. Maybe I just defined I guess a totalitarian society. He's like halfway there. Yeah, like the autarchical nature of it and the fucking absolution. But like, here's the thing, that doesn't define fascism. It doesn't, because it doesn't articulate how you can be a fascist if you're not in a fascist state, which we have. We have people that are fascists, but they have not achieved fascism in the state. So you didn't define them. If you did, then you're talking about a blood cell that's literally outside of an organism that it requires to survive. Like, also just talking about the constituent pieces of a body. What value does a blood cell have once it's outside of you? Unless it goes into somebody else, I guess, like a blood trade. It's gonna die. I mean, you're talking about constituent parts of a body. It's just a god awful fucking metaphor. As a thing people attempt has evolved as well. It is like any political system. Fascism is the powerhouse of the cell. Oh my God! You see, when you get down to molecular science, okay, in fascism, you are the neutron, okay, and then the neutrino, all right, is also you. But because it's fascism, you're also the proton, you know, and there's nothing outside of this. Otherwise, the molecule explode. People that are trying to engage in it will sort of sew up the issues that came before. You can see this kind of across the world in other like legitimate fascist attempts at fascism and at fascist governments. The
what is it? What is the thing?
Early to mid 19th or 20th century original fascists did paramilitary or military dictatorships. And so post-revolutionary fascists and sort of generally the kind of fascists that came up at that era tended to be extremely military junta, walk around in a uniform, kind of express their existence as like the head of the military and a person that's in the military as well. And now as we get into the 21st century, and
I'm starting to think he may not get to saying what fascism is. Yeah, I'm so confused. Like, it's actually not difficult to articulate what fascism is. It's actually not that difficult. It's just
first off, you failed almost every time you tried. So watch out. That if that bar is only an inch off the ground, you're tripping. Calm the fuck down, Mister doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. Take a fucking breath, dip, not shit. God damn. Also, you can have a conversation with the presupposition that everybody's on board with the fucking definition, because I'm talking to my community in my community. No one in my community is asking the question, so I'm not going after it. Or if they were, I wasn't noticing it. And it wasn't like everybody in the fucking chat is like, hey, could you fucking go over this again? So you're looking in from the outside. Understand this. You're like fucking looking in at a classroom lecture. Essentially, it's me talking to a few hundred people about something we're all on the same page about, okay? Because they attended the previous classes. Why'd you release the video? To increase people's curiosity. The video did not go over. It wasn't I define fascism. It was I talk about how fucking lefties are not immune to it. And then I give reasons why lefties are not immune to it. By almost any definition of fascism that I can even imagine, the ones that aren't even mostly congruous with mine, even your own goofy fucking definitions, all of my argumentation still stays the same because I'm making a completely different point. But you're like looking in on a fucking classroom lecture on week 4, wondering like, when is he going to go over the day 1 material on the syllabus? Is this guy going to go over the day 1 material on the syllabus? It's day fucking 20 of class, dumb fuck. You just didn't attend. What? We're all on the same page. You're looking in from the outside. If your curiosity is stoked, ask a question in a way that is fucking respectful and you might get a fucking answer. Honestly, once it became time for, my back felt a little better, and it was time for me to make fun of you. Now you get the answer, and I think it's pretty fucking solid. Shout out Drunky Drunk Sunday. I know you're watching. Sip 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 sip. Probably completely unable to fucking handle it, just losing his mind. Good old shit. All right, Aiko, if you're there, you're a fucking freak. I'm gonna get you very, very soon. I've got some Aiko shit that I'm getting ready to fuck you up. My God. But goddamn, dude, God fucking damn. I don't know where you get the confidence, because it's definitely not from your view numbers. And it's definitely not from you have these conversations with people that don't think you're a fucking idiot. Like, are you just getting peppered up by like 20 comment videos from mostly filled with people that hate me from another community full of fucking groomer defenders? The community that fucking argues about whether or not fucking necrophilia is fucking moral. You got those people coming over and peppering you up by like just raw agreeing with you and never repeating anything that's an argument that's actually presented or even understanding what's going on. Like, is that who's fucking getting you fired up about this shit? You clipped my shit all the way down. Like, who, maybe I did say it. You're not even just responding to a constituent part. You're blowing through it. I don't even know why you cut it down. You have a slop channel. Just fucking leave it in without all the fucking edits. Who gives a shit? It's more fucking view time. Your entire setup makes no fucking sense. I just don't even, I don't understand why you're here. Like, you just showed up unprepared. It's like somebody came into a fucking exam, a midterm exam with fully shit pants, no shirt on, asking everybody if they can borrow a pencil and what was on the syllabus last week. Like, you haven't been here. Also, why did you shit your pants? Also, what the fuck do you think you're going to accomplish on this test? Just completely lost. Completely divorced from fucking any sense of how conversations are had. Like, what in the fuck is this? What in the fuck are you doing?
It's just people have been mind fucked about fascism for a really long time. They really don't know where to start. People start to think about it as like fascism is a particular system of government. That's what a lot of people will say. You know, that fascism is a type of government. It's a
kid is like this because he's tired of delivering for GoPuff, his last job. Hey, I gotta say something. No, there's no, I don't know if I've never really seen you in here before, but there's no making fun of people for having a job. Not in my community at all. Working a blue collar job is fine. Okay, I don't even care if it's a dog shit job. I might make a joke here or there about somebody having to work third shift at a gas station because I personally believe that's the most miserable job to work. But no, please don't ever, I don't permit that. I'm not Sunday. I don't let people make fun of people for having real jobs. That shit's fucking, I've had those jobs, okay? There's ain't no one in here in this entire community or me better than somebody for having to fucking work for GoPuff. I actually lived next to a GoPuff fucking station when I was in Louisville.
It's a type of authoritarian government. It's like that. Well, that's not really what we're talking about here. Like, yes, of course it relates to it. Like, that's the point. But like, fascism is that mobilizing force. That's how you mobilize the workers and the capitalists and everyone to work under the purview of the state. That's what fascism is. How you do that. A lot of people just, I don't know why. I think it's like, I think maybe there's so many people that have just list and everyone to work under the purview of the state. That's what fascism is. How you do that. A lot of people just, I don't know why. I think it's like, I think maybe there's so many people that have given confusing definitions, and maybe some people have just like, you know, maybe some people call everything fascist, and maybe some people will just like throw the word around, or maybe they'll just talk about the characteristics. Maybe they'll just wing it. There's so many people doing that you pick whatever seems intuitive to you, but then you have some assumptions that just don't really line up, like thinking that fascism is, you know, a lot of people on the left will say that fascism is necessarily capitalist. I mean, for the record, everything in this era is necessarily capitalist. It's within a market. But even with like the, you know, people will say that there's no fascism in the USSR, there's no fascism in communist China or whatever. They'll think that like fascism requires mass privatization because the term privatization was something that was coined in describing the economic policy of Adolf Hitler. And so they'll say, oh, gotcha. Okay, so fascism does in fact require the mass privatization of industry. No, it doesn't. So a lot of people just, they go with whatever is intuitive and then they run with it. And it's frustrating. Because now nobody knows. He's
like a fucking sneeze away from getting it. He's like a sneeze away from getting it. He just came into this way too fucking cocky. He's trying to get a fucking dunk on me and just not realizing that fucking I can ball like a motherfucker. Like you're just not there. When is this guy gonna throw a layup in a fucking dunk contest? Like, what, are you out of your mind? You're right fucking there. I don't disagree with most of what you just said. Some of it's just a little bit off. But goddamn,
he knows what the fuck it means. Distinguish nationalism and fascism. So is fascism using extreme nationalism to motivate people to do things? Yeah, but it should be clear that the extreme fascism that we're talking about is the way that you're characterizing the state. So like the state is not something that like has the authority because it's really strong, and if you step out of the line, then you're going to be beaten to death. Fascism, it has its own what they say their mythos. The mythos of the state is like a core principle for fascism. That is the mobilizing. Like you need to see the state as something that like you were a part of this like this mythical project where like you are a unique people, you are a unique collection of people comprising.
See, this is the thing, is you're not even talking about a state. You like this is the issue with the fucking statist stuff. Freaked out about it. Is that like the idea of Germany, and like even if you just go Nazi Germany, which everyone knows the most about, it wasn't like we're gonna put together the best government. It wasn't like exaltation of the Third Reich itself. You know what I mean? Like operationally, like the bureaucracy. That's what a state is. A state is the fucking organizational method through which governance is achieved. You know what I mean? That's not what fucking Triumph of the Will is focused on. It's about the people, the folk, the Nazi party leading all of these strong Aryan people to retake the German fucking the Vaterland, you know what I mean? And fucking reconstitute a sense of Hyperborea or whatever the fuck. The point is the organization and the strength of the German people, die Volk. Like that was the whole point of Nazi Germany. There's no like, they wouldn't have given a fuck about what the construction of the state was. There was already a state. There was already a state there. It was the Weimar government, right? Which they overthrew. If it was exaltation of the state, they wouldn't have needed that. They overthrew that shit and instituted a new thing that adhered to ideals that exist outside of the state. They must necessarily not have a state first if you can overthrow a state and then institute a new state. That has to exist without the state. That's the fucking point of it. Like this entire articulation suggests that fascists will just naturally start obeying a state that exists, which is antithetical to how they fucking behave. We wouldn't have to worry about them. If fascists were always just like, no, I love the state and I do everything for the state is good, we wouldn't have to worry about fascists overthrowing the government, because that's the state. That's what it is. That's what the fucking state is. Never mind. I'm not going to keep hammering that home.
Comprising a unique organism, and anything outside of your unique organism has nothing to do with you. So you need to make sure that you are a healthy part of this organism. You would want to be really clear about.
And also, isolationism is not. It's a fascist characteristic, but it's not a characteristic that's like unique to fascism. Like isolationism exists sometimes just naturally for states because they're like literally on fucking islands or landlocked in hostile terrain or something. But there's a lot of isolationist states, like fucking Imperial Japan was isolationist and they weren't fascist at all. It was a fucking like God sent empire. Like literally, they have a fucking emperor. You know what I mean?
About what that motivating factor is, that characterization of like the way that you view the state. And yes, it is true that there are people that are going to be motivated to not step out of line. But the reason why is not necessarily just because the state will crack down on you, but also the people will. You're not just an enemy of the state, you're an enemy of the people. The people are united behind fascism.
Like
the people
right
are a
fucking
part of
there.
a mythical project of the unique existence of the state. It's not just that the state's going to crack, everyone's going to crack down on you because you are the outside. You are them. It's a largely psychological process that you're doing with people.
Fascism can evolve while still trying to achieve the same ends and not in any way, shape, or form altering how it comes about in a strictly predictive and holistic sense. There's always going to be subtleties. There's always going to be slight alterations in the plan. You know.
What?
Nothing's ever perfectly what it's supposed to be.
What?
Definitionally, when it comes to organizations that control countries. But just understand that fascism moves on. You know what I mean? He said, what? So I'll hop in there. This is what I sort of go to in the end of this, but it's something I would save much more for the essay. I think this is actually kind of crucial to him not understanding what the fuck is going on. And that is that the geographical region where a state exists, states exist within borders, where regionally a state is a thing. Okay, it has its borders. Inside a state might have its primary method of statecraft, of organization, how it literally deals with issues inside both foreign and domestic, so to say. But inside the construction of that state will be a series of micro governments that exist. Like literally your workplace is a type of government. Okay. It's a type of like state within a state. America literally has states within a state that are sovereign states within the United States of America, to which their sovereignty is only challenged by certain federal statutes, which all of the other states agree on in a democratic fashion. So you have a mix of sovereign states and democracies, but also representative democracies, but also like this unified state that's underneath this unification of states underneath the federal government. At the top of the federal government, you have a series of different types of government. You have literally, our government is made up of 3 different types of government that have checks and balances underneath them. Okay, you have an actual parliamentary, legislative, bicameral House government in the legislature with your fucking House of Representatives and your Senate. Okay, but their power is checked and balanced by a judicial government, right? The Supreme Court, which has its own literal hierarchy of fucking courts underneath it that interact with the other states. And you have an executive government, which is, you know, if you didn't have the other 2 balances of government, is kind of indiscernible from either just a kind of like a consulship Roman style dictatorship. It would be that, because you have a one chief executive who runs the military, and then everything else falls underneath that. But those governments are mixed together to create what is the American political experiment, this extremely complicated mixture of governments. Underneath all of those are a series of other tiny governmental experiments, things that come into existence and then disappear. Corporations are governments within our government that are disconnected from our government, but still subservient to it, that may not be necessarily democratic. You can have a family-owned business, which is fundamentally speaking a powerless sub-state that's an economic, this hereditary economic passed down like collection. You know what I mean? It's a family business. It's passed down by inheritance from like father to son to father to daughter or whatever the fuck on down the line. You can have one that's a board, publicly traded companies. That's the kind of the point. And a fascist country, a country could go fascist and be fascist for a while and then stop. Literally, like I was saying earlier, Nazi Germany is no longer Nazi Germany, but the same kind of people that became Nazis still live in Germany. Like they're kids. You know, we didn't exterminate the fucking German people. We beat them in a fight, split their country in half, and eventually it reunified through a lot of difficulties. All of those soldiers came home. They went back to Austria, to Czechoslovakia, to fucking Berlin, to fucking Munich, to fucking Bayern. Stuttgart, Dusseldorf, all of those places, and then they fucking had families. Some of them already had families. They raised their kids. Those Nazis that were beat raised kids that became fucking liberal, democratic, anti-fascists in certain cases. It's just an impermanent state. All governments are impermanent states that are always transitioning into something else. The point of the American political experiment is that we transition our government into another version of our same government again and again and again and again and again to get new, fresh blood in there, prevent it from stagnating, but also not let it just fucking completely dissolve into revolutionary, balkanizing nonsense. It's highly complicated. It's complex. You can't essentialize any government, even more simplistic monarchies from the 1400s and stuff that seem simplistic because like, what's a monarchy? It's got a king. It's like, yeah, but once you get into fiefdoms and shit and how that all breaks down and how the economics relates to the statecraft, relates to the power craft, and how war is waged and how taxes are levied and all that sort of shit, it gets much more complicated. And you see within those the same sort of thing. Yeah, it's a monarchy, but down when you get down to the thralls, or not the thralls, the jarls and shit back in the day, they would have fucking moots. And moots are democratic organizations. You know, you would have guys get together, vote, and as equals make decisions over their non-equal citizens that fall underneath them. That's kind of the point that I'm making. Governmental organizations, state organizations especially, are highly, highly complicated. And very often just trying to essentialize them by a singular detail will absolutely make you unable to predict any behavior from that state, because you'll be trying to corner it down into something that can only be defined in a situation where you have like 10 total people. but you're dealing with hundreds of millions and trillions of dollars of people and trillions of dollars and hundreds of years of history. It's very, very complicated, very complex.
What? No, what? No, I don't know. I don't know what you mean.
It's going to change. It will be different, and it will describe itself differently, but it will be what it is, and it will try to achieve the ends that it goes for, because ultimately we'll have this the primary the operative.
It's not really an end to fascism. There's no like utopia.
Primarily, it will always have the same operative characteristics at the heart of it, the same engine running it.
Which are?
But if you get distracted by the artifice that's up top, you know, how things are talked about, how things are argued, the sort of language and the niceties that are used to massage the negative aspects of it, you can get tricked into thinking you're seeing something that you're not, because it has a slightly different set of surface characteristics, when really at the bottom what you are seeing is establishment of an in-group and an out-group, establishing the out-group as a moral peril, and then establishing a further out-group beyond the bounds of the country
But those are things that fascists could be mobilized to do.
As a permanent barbarian invader class that's trying to come into your country and kill everybody. So you have
that can be something that fascism is motivated to do. That doesn't tell you what fascism is.
to perpetually remain at war and conflict and all this sort of stuff, and establishing a primary. Never mind. I'll be saying the same thing again and again. That whole deal.
Well, it doesn't sound like he has a good idea of what it is. Okay, so I guess we've established that his
It skipped to clearly somewhere the fuck else in the video. Bro, this is sued shit. I can't believe you made yourself a whole fucking like neon for this.
His definition of fascism is basically just like random characteristics that he's seen fascist states do. It doesn't seem like he has a good idea of like why they do it.
Shut the fuck up. I literally described a motivation like 10 seconds ago and he discounted it. He literally, that was the cut. Okay, well that's why they might be doing it, but he didn't say that. That doesn't define what they are. And then he goes to the next part. He says, well, he said a bunch of characteristics that define them, but doesn't go into their motivations. Oh my god. I look forward to a response video where he says, actually what I said is why they would do something. I never used the word motivations.
But he says also part of the title is that that leftists are susceptible, or that a leftist can be a fascist or something. Does he talk about leftists are not immune to fascism? Let's see if he clarifies that.
That's why I got frustrated with how I've seen me comparing. What is this? What is going on in this video? This is insanity. This is fucking insanity. This is crazy. I can't believe. Did I just get Homer Simpson clocked meme? Watch this. Watch the fucking play bar.
Are susceptible, or that a leftist can be a fascist or something. Does he talk about leftists are not immune to fascism? Let's see if he clarifies that.
Watch the bar. God damn it. Even if this is actually all above board and you're doing it in an explanatory way, I'm gonna hit play and see if he says see if he answers the question, and then I watch the play bar shoot forward like who knows what is the. It's a 39-minute video. How far does it shoot forward? It shoots forward from 27 to 34. It just shoots forward 7 or 8 minutes ahead, depending on how many seconds are there. Fucking boop. Your fucking inability to present evidence is insane. Let's see if he's answers this question. Before it went back and shot back. I'm being fucking Homer Simpson mean. I do not know what fascism is. The phone clock is just freaking the fuck out the entire time. Tyler, for seemingly comparing socialism and fascism, I acknowledge I may have misinterpreted. You can compare anything.
What? Wait, what? How?
Socialism doesn't necessarily mean social services.
Oh.
He said, got him. Oh no. What? Oh, yo, dude, fucking, hey, lay Reddit, fucking, Reddit atheist over here. Crazy. Bro, oh, God damn, this motherfucker is gonna kill me. Please respond to more of my videos. Oh my God, that's fucking funny. Doesn't necessarily mean social services.
Oh.
We're not having a conversation. I'm not talking to him. He's skipping around my video and making snide little piss comments. This shit's fucking awesome. Social safety nets are an aspect of socialism, but if socialism progresses to the perfect end state of communism, you won't have social services because you wouldn't need them. I don't know how the fuck you make that actually happen. But like, that's another thing. Like, if you don't need, that's the thing with socialism. If it doesn't actually provide it, you wouldn't even have it. You know what I mean? Like, if there's another version of socialism that empowers the working class and allows them to maintain the fruits of their labor, you might not need social services because maybe the income is fixed, or maybe magic space communism happens and you can't be like harmed anymore. You know what I mean? I know that's fucking going off into the fucking sci-fi territory, but that's to kind of push the point so far that you understand why I'm saying that. It might not be social services that accomplish the thing that you want, which is, it might not be unions that get you there. Although those are stopgap measures basically to achieve the end state, and may be the only state that you can achieve because the end state is actually legitimately impossible and the holding state is within there. Those might
What the fuck is he talking about?
not actually be the thing. So like,
What the fuck?
those are stopgap measures basically to achieve the end state, and may be the only state that you can achieve because the end state is actually legitimately impossible and the holding state is within there. Those might not actually be the thing. So like, the point of saying that is, it would probably
this
is me articulating this for the first time. Oh, there you go. Editors, there you go. Damn. That's a good one. No, I'm not gonna put it up. What I'm talking about right now is that there's an idea of a socialist utopia where basically like everybody has everything that they need, right? But you might not actually be able to accomplish that because of just the impossibilities that may arise with scarcity of both resources and will. Sometimes people just don't even want to do that. Somebody might legitimately just be too fucking evil. And so you might have to do other things to deal with other issues that will prevent you from achieving the utopia state that people have suggested is possible, which is still, it's a utopia state. Between the utopia state and the bad state or whatever, the issues are still very present state that we're in right now, is some sort of stopgap equilibrium state that achieves the cessation of all of the issues that plague us, that make us want to go in the direction of socialism, but still don't achieve all of the ends of socialist utopia that maybe were articulated, you know what I mean, in the Enlightenment and stuff. So you don't get all the way to utopic socialism, but you don't need to, because somewhere on the way there is a point where you hit an equilibrium state that accomplishes the solution of all of, or so many of the issues that have arisen that you don't really care to do the additional work to get to the last thing. You know what I mean? And there's a lot of different reasons you could arrive at that. It could be a lack of will to push further. You know what I mean? There's just a minority class, but it's like 0.0002%. You know what I mean? Some sort of horrible Black Mirror episode type thing. There's the person that has to go press the "you die" button once a week or whatever. These are called hypotheticals. I'm just trying to articulate a dark reason for that. Or you might find that the resources that you would need to achieve that state don't exist. And so you have to have some of this or that, or the will doesn't exist. So you still have to have, like, you still maintain markets and shit, but people have a sense of equilibrium in this government, and it's better than trying to risk that. Risking that is not as, maintaining it is better than trying to push to a better state that would put the good state that you're already in at risk. Kind of basically like saying, like, hey, I made it. I'm good where I am, and I kind of want to sit here society-wise, is really what I'm trying to articulate there. Like in Star Trek, pretty close, yeah. Will help you now, immediately, obviously. And I'm still, in my own mind, literally, if you guys have heard me call governments service districts again and again and again and again, you probably know where I stand on this thing. And if you are confused about that, yeah, you're being dumb. So,
is this schizo critique of communism? I don't know if he knows what communism is either.
There might be, skip the developments in a social society or a socialist society where something like a social service would not be necessary. It just wouldn't, or it might exist and it wouldn't be called that. Which is why I think more than likely there is never going to be like any end state communism, and it's not really something that's worth kind of like fighting for, considering it's, you know, trying to like, you know, maybe we can all jump higher in a year, but I don't think we can jump to the moon, and I don't think we maybe necessarily need to in order to achieve the best state for humanity. Might not actually be communism. It might be something else.
What? He doesn't know what it is, does he? It doesn't seem like he knows what fascism is. It doesn't. It seems like
fucking idiot. How do you extrapolate that, you fucking idiot? Holy fuck, this dude is this is a new fucking frontier in being a fart huffing idiot. How are you this stupid, KidNotKin? How the fuck can you accomplish being this fucking brain dead? What? Man, dude, literally what I said is there might be a point where we don't need to try to achieve utopic communism because it may be impossible, and we may arrive at something that solves all of those issues that we want that kind of communism to solve well ahead of it, right? Or we just hit a balance of issues, really, where you can't solve all of them, you know what I mean? But you solve enough of them that you find comfortable equilibrium in something approaching that, but you don't arrive at it because it's also utopia, because no such place, you know what I mean? That's what I said. From that, he extrapolated, certainly, we've already proven this man does not know what fascism is, because I just didn't define it when he was talking to his computer screen to ask me. When he was talking to me, I know, like Kanye said, you know, I feel like it's just, you know, it's just you and me, talking like it's just you and me, you know, but that even in that song, he's articulating that he knows that you're listening to him on the radio. I'm not in the room with you, homie. We're not having a fucking conversation. You're not learning anything additional to a pre-recorded video that you're skipping through. There is no moment where you can say this isn't enough information video with a finite amount of information in it that's not representative of the entirety of a human's knowledge. I've asked you a question to your face, pre-recorded video, and you have not provided me with the answer. Certainly, therefore, the person in this pre-recorded video cannot give it to me. Hey, KidNotKin, what's the second law of thermodynamics?
Seems like he doesn't know what communism is. There's that video before where he was saying that, like, if you're on welfare, then you...
what's the second law of thermodynamics? Dude, this is the most fart-huffing shit I've ever seen in my life. Dude, the fucking Sunday orbiter sphere is fucking cooked. Oh my god. Oh my fucking god. Extrapolate further. He clearly doesn't know what communism is. How can you presume a functional definition of communism that exists, that minor amount of shit that I talked about where we maybe can't achieve the final state of it? Like, how do you get that? How do you make that leap is fucking nuts. Was he actually popping fucking Addies during this thing? I saw him put something in his mouth. I thought it was a breath mint. I assumed that fucking Sunday Orbiter's got some fucking stank mouth on him, but like, who knows?
Then you're just a lazy piece of shit and you're not like a pro worker or some shit like that. Like, what is the, like, how do you get to this sort of position where you're a political commentator online talking to an audience of people, specifically about leftist ideas or whatever, and you don't know the definition for basically any of the things that you're saying? What, like, I don't understand how you get into that kind of position. I know that kind of thing happens, and I can see it happening with people that want to be part of a particular kind of in-group, like whether they want to be with Vosh or they want to be with Demon Mama or whatever, and he seems to be kind of like, he seems to like hate all of these people. So like, I don't know, how did it happen?
This is fucking awesome. Normally when people are on the internet, they're all trying to suck someone's dick and be an orbiter, but for some reason this guy doesn't want to be an orbiter. Yeah, because I don't. That's it. That's the end. That's the end of the complication. I don't. Literally, your ability to parse the world can't define me because you're fucking too narrow-minded to understand that I just say what the fuck I want to say and then people pay me anyway. That's it. I'm my own guy. I don't give a fuck about Destiny. I don't give a shit about Vosh. I don't care about fucking Hassan aside from whatever it is I'm thinking about them or reacting to them in the moment. I don't want to be in their communities. I'm better than that. I'm not an orbiter. You're an orbiter. You can't do better than that. Your entire life is trying to suck someone else's dick to get on their show. It's crazy that you asked me to be on yours. That's why that makes sense to you. You're trying to talk about an actual content creator like they're a worm fuck, like you are. You're trying to understand me as though I'm an orbiter. I'm not. I'm not like you. I'm actually fucking entertaining and shit. I build my audience. I grow. I'm a professional. I do my research. I learn. I'm smarter than the fucking exact moment of when I'm talking. I got plans and shit. I'm literally outside the scope of your understanding of how to make content because that's why you're so fucking bad at it. That's why your channel is a fucking postage stamp. You might get a bunch of subs just because I called you a fucking dumb fuck. How crazy is that? You're going to get a bunch of subs, little comments. People will probably come running to you right now like, hey, watch this. Hurry up, hurry up, hurry up. If you get views on a response video to this, it's probably going to be like 25 to 50% my audience coming in to watch it. Lucky you. You're a fucking orbiter. That's your life. That's your death. That's what you are. You're an insignificant fucking second child of history because you're a fucking moron. You're a fart huffing clown that exists to be made fun of, and that's it. That's why you can't figure this the fuck out. You started with a premise where you were going to try to prove that I didn't know what I was talking about. I talked about something completely fucking different, and now all you can do is keep asking the same fucking question that doesn't even address the topic at hand again and again and again. Bro, you got fucking boozled by your own dumb fucking broken ass brain, man. You're a 2 brain cell Andy. You're a fucking 1200K orbiter or a 1200... Yeah, 1200 orbiter, not 1200K. Jesus Christ. That's like 1.2 million. And that's it. Dude, I've never seen such a pathetic display in my fucking life. I'm like actually disappointed in you. Like man to man, human to human. I cannot believe you fucking invoked my name. And like, I had to come and check this out. I hope that I heard Queeman is a fucking more vicious little monster and knows more about stuff. I really hope that the other Sunday Orbiters fucking do better than you. Oh my God. I can't fucking believe this. I cannot fucking, that you had the balls to fucking come and ask me, how the fuck do you think that would have gone? You can still pop on. Understand, I'm not coming on your fucking show. It's a waste of my fucking time. And you're a cunt and I don't like you. So I'm not going to come on your show. If you want to come on mine, you can come to me, ask. I'll let you be on my better, larger, more influential program of 13, whatever the fuck, whole 1,000 fucking followers I have. And then you can fucking come talk to me, all right? If you want to come talk to me. But learn your fucking place in this thing, man. Like, so you can actually like learn and grow and be better because this is embarrassing. This is pathetic. I would delete your, are you even making money off this shit, bro? Delete your fucking channel before, I don't know, maybe your someday children find this shit and like, God damn, dad was a fucking cringe lord. And in trying to achieve the best state for humanity is what we're supposed to be doing. That's like actual futurism. And if the best state isn't socialism, but some sort of magical capitalism where everything actually does work out the way that the capitalists say that it does in their sort of like mental dream state. Tyler is his wife's orbiter. Absolutely true. It's a fact. Me and all my pets just orbit my wife. Then in that insane hypothetical, technically I would go with the other one, because I don't have a team in this, and you really shouldn't. That's kind of where the downfall comes, is you shouldn't have a team. Your friends from the cool socialism might not actually be that cool, and they might be sociopathic fascists who are going to take advantage of the socialist precursor condition and the post-revolutionary action in order to seize control, and then all of a sudden, fuck, you're going to a camp. God damn it. Whoops. The only reason I'm saying it is because it's happened so many fucking... I'll explain it to him again, because I don't know if he fucking has anything else better to do than watch me make fun of him. Dumb fuck. That's what the entire premise of the video is. First off, I'm like repeating my thesis at this point. Socialist precursor conditions, right? The precursor conditions to allow a government or a state of some sort to transition into socialism also open the door to transitioning into other things, okay? Because they don't just cause that. One of the things that can happen if those socialist precursor conditions exist, I'm not going to say them all again because I already did this earlier. If you skipped ahead and you're listening to this right now, skip back, you fucking reprobate after school fucking detention motherfucking dropkick. God damn, I would be pissed at you. Those precursor conditions can open the door to other situations that happen. People can tell you, I'm a socialist. They can repeat all of the socialist talking points, but they can also still just be Adolf fucking Hitler. And they say, I'm here for the working man, and I love all these populist things, and I'm here to fucking help everybody and fix stuff. Then they take advantage of your social revolution, and they use the power vacuum created by doing a revolution and removing the current operative state, and then they just take all the fucking power for themselves when the vacuum opens. It's that simple. That's what happens. That's it. I thought this was gonna be, I thought I was gonna be like backfooted at least a little bit by somebody that had some fucking like strong understanding of this whole thing. This is nuts. Many fucking times. Ladies and gentlemen, you have been watching Westside Tyler Live.
I'm so confused by this guy. It seems like he goes on an entire rant about fascism, what makes fascism, who's a fascist. It doesn't seem like he knows what fascism is. It doesn't seem like he has a good idea of what communism is. If you don't know,
here's the thing. Explain that. I know he always has to define that. Literally tell me why. I've done it a series of times when I said what you're doing wrong. I present what you said, I repeat it, and I say why it's incorrect. You're just saying you don't feel like I have a good definition, but honestly, I don't think you have a good definition. And I think that is letting you not recognize my superior definition of fascism. That's how you would craft that fucking argument, you absolute fucking fish head. What are you talking about? Why do you just opine on shit and then not explain a fucking thing, right? You go back to all the stuff I've been saying. It's either I'm referencing something I've already said, or I go over my fucking methodology again and 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 again. If you feel like I don't understand what I'm talking about, repeat things that I said and say how that would inform the lack of knowledge of fascism, right? I think you've maybe tried to do that 2 or 3 times during this, but then you started talking about this blood cell argument that was more a definition of how isolationism works, but also a very, very weak fucking metaphor, because blood cells just literally have to exist inside of a body. You're not even describing something that could exist outside of it. I know you're like, oh yeah, that's the person, but like fascists can literally exist outside of fascist states. They do it all the time. It's how they make fascism. See how I'm repeating what you said and I'm saying how it's wrong and how I'm using that to infer that you're fucking incorrect? That is how you provide a counter argument. I know if you've been hanging around with fucking the Groomer Defense League chair himself, fucking President Sunday, sure, okay, just saying, oh, well, Tyler, and then just saying fucking some just gibberish bullshit. I don't think that you understand this specifically. Like that's what that entire subsection of the internet says. That is not a counter argument. How to make a counter argument is to repeat the thing that you heard the person said so that they know that you fucking were listening. Right? I did, right? See, remember how I repeated the thing you said? Then say how that's fucking wrong, and then also say how it could be right if you fixed it. so that you can articulate an entire through criticism of how to actually make the argument the correct way, which shows you know how to make the argument the correct way. That's why you knew the other person made the argument the incorrect way, and also that you were listening to the argument. All you're saying at the end here is, I didn't understand what he was saying. I saw you skipping through this. It's full of cuts. I don't think you paid attention. I don't think if this is how you approach anybody having something conversational to say at all, I don't think that you can understand anything about anything. Do you do this to books? Do you just fucking bloop through it until you're like, I feel like this is where the knowledge is contained? You didn't even approach the argument I was making from the standpoint of how I was making it. Your reaction to my video that is lefties are susceptible to fascism. Sorry, suck a dick, whatever the fuck the title is a criticism of something completely unrelated to the thesis of the video. The video existing in and of itself as a full thesis does not require definitions because it's cut from something else. Did you look up the fucking main shit? Did you look up the fucking, the original thing that it's from? No. You reached out to me, but you wanted me to come on your fucking show to, like, what, hand feed you the definition, or more than likely set up some gay fucking ambush thing with you and fucking President Sunday's dumbass. The truest of the gay ops. And that wasn't it. You could have just literally asked me, like, could you please write down a definition? I'm making a video. No, you wanted to try to turn it into content, but I'm going to turn you into content now because this is how we fucking do on the internet. All right. That is how you could have fixed this. You could have just literally fucking asked me. You could have hopped into a call. You could have fucking actually showed up on my thing, but you're too fucking lazy for it, which is very evident from how you make content. You seem like an incredibly lazy person. I don't know why you pursue this. You're never going to be successful at it because you don't have the work ethic or the fucking talent. And you don't say anything interesting or controversial enough to get picked up by other people that want to turn you into a fucking lolcow. Like, you got nothing here. You got no juice in the game, no leverage. There's literally no reason to talk to you, only just to talk about you, to call you a fucking moron. And that's it. And I don't understand what your audience gets from this. I know they're going to be in my comment section. Please come on and fucking explain it. But that is, in short, why the fuck all of this was. This is a waste of time. And I don't think you could even understand anything. Literally, if this is how you approach the life, if this is how you try to approach shit by presuming ahead of time, literally, you said it so much that you're fucking busted. I don't think you can define fascism. I don't think you can define fascism. You said that from start to finish throughout the entirety of the thing. It's very clear you started with a supposition about the video, doesn't actually address the fucking thesis of the video, and then you self-justify your own bad criticism of the video by saying, my question that I was asking about it was never answered, even though it's a question that the video doesn't require to answer, have answered to make sense. It is intellectual stagnation. It is indication of nothing but pure laziness, self-involvedness, and just a fucking low IQ dipshit's attempt to get a fucking dunk on his betters. I'm disgusted by you. I'm not surprised that you're this fucking brain dead. You're a fucking Sunday orbiter, or worse, I guess a tomfoolery orbiter. I can't imagine. I couldn't imagine. I guess he's that bald. Maybe you mistook him for the fucking sun because you saw him near a window or something. But in summation, Jesus fucking Christ, what a pathetic attempt to fucking make a response to me. Literally do better next time. I don't even know if I would respond to another response to you because I don't know how many times I could fucking make up additional fucking synonymous insults for you. Like you're gonna fucking expend my entire fucking already voluminous library of ways to tell you to go fuck yourself if I have to do any more videos on you. Pathetic display, disgusting. You should learn to hate yourself so you can actually improve. Pathetic. Let's see what you have to say in the last fucking half minute of this.
No, it's fine. No one seems to know. But it's weird to have a motivation to go on a rant and make a video about something that like you won't even like define. I don't know. There's something really weird about it. There's something really, really strange about it.
Yeah, ultimate. No. Trash. Garbage. Pathetic display. I have not been that disappointed since the last time I had to interact with the fucking Sunday sphere. I'm not surprised if if the person that you're fucking orbiting right now is also the guy that started a video, worst video essay ever, lied to his audience, didn't watch it, and then couldn't make it through the first like 15 minutes of it. and just, oh, it's gonna be bad, and turn it off. Just pathetic. Literally just intellectual fucking reprobates. I'm not surprised that entire fucking subsection of the internet's full of fucking pedo defenders and necrophilia aficionados and questioners. I'm necrophilia curious. Not surprised at all. Fucking literally get out of there. If you're a fan of this shit, I don't even know if I necessarily want you closer to me, but I'm pretty sure Barney the Dinosaur has a channel on YouTube. He might hook you the fuck up. Barney is a dinosaur from our imagination. He can teach you 1, 2, 3, ABC and shit, how to share, how to listen. That might be more your speed if you're a Kid Not Kin fan. Watch out for my comment section because I'm probably going to tell you some fucking heinous shit. I might say some fucked up stuff to you that will fuck your life up. I don't know. But I got to say, I'm stunned, shocked, aghast, appalled. Disgraceful fucking display. Pathetic. Fuck me. End segment. Jesus fucking Christ.